Sheikh Yasir was born in Houston. His father, Dr. Qadhi, was one of the most influential folks involved in the group that established the first masjid in the 60s. Alhamdulillah, from the 60s, ISGH has evolved to what it is today. Sheikh Yasir became a Hafiz al-Quran in his early teenage years. He went on to University of Houston, where he got a degree in chemical engineering. His quest for the Dini knowledge took him to University of Medina, where he studied for 10 years. His quest for knowledge wasn't done. Upon returning to the US, he obtained a master's degree and a PhD from Yale University. For the last 9 years, he has been serving as the resident scholar at Memphis Islamic Center. He also teaches at Rhodes College. He also is the Dean for Academic Affairs for Al-Maghrib Institute. And somehow he also finds time to tour all over the country and various parts of the world to benefit the Muslim Ummah. Without further ado, Sheikh Yasir, thank you for being here. And inshallah, I'll turn the microphone to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. It is my honor and pleasure to be here visiting Frisco. This is the first time I'm coming to the Frisco Community Masjid. And mashallah, tabarakallah, the vibrancy, mashallah, is very clear upon all of you, alhamdulillah. So today the lecture that I'm going to be giving is a lecture that I believe is one of the most underrepresented, neglected fields that is necessary. That is necessary for spiritual development, and that is the field of Allah's names and attributes. I recited in Salat al-Maghrib, I recited Ayat al-Kursi. And our Prophet ﷺ said, he asked a question, and he said, which ayah is the greatest ayah in the Quran? And Ubay ibn Ka'b said, I don't know, Allah and His Messenger know best. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him again to quiz him. And Ubay instantaneously answered. Out of all of the Quran, he instantaneously said, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. And our Prophet ﷺ tapped him in the shoulder, and he said, knowledge has been made easy for you, O Ubay. Knowledge has been made easy for you. Why is Ayatul Kursi the greatest ayah in the Quran? Because it has over 20 of Allah's names and attributes. Surah Al-Ikhlas equals 1/3 of the Quran. Why? Because it is nothing other than Allah's names and attributes. And you cannot read a single page of the Quran except that you will come across sometimes dozens of names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the very minimum, 3, 4, 5 names of Allah. Barely an ayah goes by except that the ayah ends in Ghafur Rahim, Azizun Hakim, Tawwabun Hakim. And unfortunately, most of us, we just zoom over those ayah endings as if they're fillers that don't mean anything. We never think, what are those ayah endings doing with this ayah? We never contemplate the relevancy of the names to the ayah itself. Why did Allah choose Aziz over here, and Tawwab over there, and Hakim over there? What is the relationship between the name and the verse? We just zoom over as if it's fluff. But Allah does not speak except with wisdom. Nothing of Allah is in vain. And this chapter of Allah's names and attributes is one of the most essential chapters of Islamic theology. Why? Because how else do we know Allah except through His names and attributes? We have no mechanism of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except through His names and attributes. You want to move it here? Or if you want, I can do that one. I just thought this would be better. So you guys, this is better? Okay, bismillah. Technical difficulties goes every masjid, don't worry, it's not just yours. Every masjid. We wouldn't be a good Muslim conference except there's technical difficulties. Is this better? Yeah. Okay. So, the concept concept of Allah's names and attributes. How do we know about Allah? Let me ask you, how do you expect to love Allah if you don't know Allah? How do you expect to worship Allah if you don't know Allah? How do you expect to fear Allah if you don't know Allah? How do you expect to put your hope and trust in Allah if you don't know Allah? For many of us, we never think about the concept of who is Allah. And our only source, not one of our sources, our only source of knowing about Allah is what? It is His names and attributes. No human has seen Allah. No human can see Allah in this world. Few are the humans that have spoken with Allah. Adam, Musa, our Prophet ﷺ. How about the rest of us? The only source of knowledge that we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is His names and His attributes. Without that, we have no knowledge of Allah. And that is why the Quran is full of His names and attributes. Yet for many of us, we just ignore it. We look over it. We don't think about it. In the Quran, the commandment occurs, اعلموا أن الله غفور رحيم. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب. Know that Allah is this. Know that Allah is that. لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير. So that you may know that Allah is capable of all things. There is a command to know and learn that is linked with Allah's names and attributes. اعلموا. Go study. Go have ilm that Allah is like this. Go have ilm that Allah is like that. And so in today's very brief lecture, I wanted to introduce to you the concept. And even this is a very introductory lecture. Actually, much more can be done. And I have given a more detailed class about this in Memphis. It's not online, but I've given much more detailed class about this in my center. And I just want to make a disclaimer. It's a very basic course here. So we only have 30, 40 minutes. Actually, this is a weeks-long seminars that can be done. But the point is, as an introduction, the first point that I'm going to begin with, after talking about the introduction of why we're studying Allah's names and attributes, and the why, as I've explained, is because the command has occurred in the Quran, and it is our only source of knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know that Allah has described His names in the Quran in 4 verses as being Al-Husna. 4 times. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاء الْحُسْنَى. 4 separate times in the Quran. Allah has said, to Allah belong the names that are Al-Husna. Now, many people think Al-Husna is the feminine of Hasan. No, it is not. It is the feminine of Ahsan. What is the difference? Hasan means good. Ahsan means the best. And Asma is feminine. So when you're describing Asma, you need a feminine adjective. So to Allah belongs Al-Asma Al-Husna. And Al-Husna means the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most majestic names. So Al-Husna translates as, not as beautiful, to Allah belong beautiful names, no, but as the most beautiful, the most perfect, the most majestic. This is what Al-Husna means. And in 2 of these verses, Allah then says, to Allah belong the beautiful names, so فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Make dua using those names. Literally, the concept of dua is linked to Asma, and we'll get to this towards the end of the lecture. So when Allah says that to Him belongs the Al-Husna names, automatically this implies a number of things. Number one, that the names of Allah come from Allah and not from me or you. I do not derive the names of Allah. The names of Allah are scriptural. They're found in the Quran and Sunnah. We don't just sit around one day and contemplate, pontificate, theorize what is a new name of Allah. Because we are not qualified to speak about Allah without knowledge. The only being who can tell us about Allah is Allah, and then through the prophets as well we can learn. Otherwise, we keep our mouths quiet. Because of the plots of shaitan is وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, that you speak about Allah without knowledge. So, of the fundamental principles of Allah's names,
we do not use names except those that occur in the Quran and Sunnah. And therefore, the names of Allah are in Arabic. Anything else is a translation of the name, just like the Quran is in Arabic. Anything else is a translation of the Quran. As well, the names of Allah are names of majesty and meaning and perfection. So when Allah is called Al-Aziz, this means He has Izzah. When Allah is called Al-Hakim, this means He has Hikmah. When Allah is called Al-Alim, this means He has Ilm. The names of Allah are names of meaning. As for me and you, our names are not necessarily names of meaning. Our parents name us, and they hope we have those names, right? They might name somebody Salih, and Salih means what?
Good name.
Righteous. But is every Salih Salih? By the way, if there's any Salihs in the audience, I'm not speaking about you. Generically, okay? Somebody might be called Ahmad, and Ahmad means he who is praised. And there are many who have been called Ahmad, and they are not Ahmad. Correct? Okay? A sister might be called Jamila. Well, all of our sisters are beautiful, so we don't say anything about that. Okay? The point being that the names of humans might not have meaning, or they could have incorrect meaning. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single name has majestic meaning. And the names of Allah, therefore, are names that convey majesty and glory and perfection, unlike the names of human beings. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. To Allah belong the most perfect, the most majestic, the most beautiful names. So make dua to Him using these names. We'll get to this concept of dua in a while. Now the question arises, and okay, I have said that the names of Allah come from the Quran and Sunnah. We don't just derive names. And I think we all are in the same wavelength here. Now listen to me carefully. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. People are shocked to find out the following, but what I'm going to tell you is mainstream theology. This isn't some bizarre fringe left wing. This is mainstream theology, but unfortunately many of us haven't studied it. And even I, when I studied it the first time, it did not, I was like, whoa, how can that be? The common perception is that Allah has 99 names. That is not accurate to state. The accurate phrasing, listen to me carefully, is Allah has unlimited number of names. Infinity. We cannot count them. But from that infinity, there are 99 that are extra special. Do you understand the difference here? The common phrase that Muslims say, oh, Allah has 99 names. And that phrase is not incorrect because Allah does have 99 names. But it is also not correct because the perception that is given amongst the people, and I'm sure many of you might have also had it, is that Allah only has 99 names. And that is factually incorrect. Did you understand this point here? Now, you may ask me, what gives you the right to say that Allah has more than 99 names when our Prophet ﷺ said that to Allah belong 99 names? And I say a number of points. Firstly, go back to the wording of the hadith. إِنَّ لِلَّهِ تِسْعَةً وَتِسْعِينَ إِسْمًا مِئَةً إِلَّا وَاحِدًا مَنْ أَحْصَاهَا دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. This hadith is reported by Abu Hurairah in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and other books of hadith, and it is an authentic hadith. It is the highest grade of authenticity. And also, it's also reported by other Sahaba as well. To Allah belong 99 names, and then to emphasize 100 minus 1. Whoever comprehends them shall enter Jannah. This is a hadith. Ibn Hajar comments on this hadith and he says, this hadith is commonly misunderstood by the masses, so that they end up believing Allah only has 99 names. But that is not the intent of the hadith. It is like somebody says, I have with me $100. He's not saying that all he possesses is 100. He is just mentioning 100 that he has right now. He might have more. The hadith is saying, to Allah belong 99, such that whoever comprehends them shall enter Jannah. The hadith does not say there are only 99 names that belong to Allah. And we know that Allah has more than 99 names from many evidences. Of them is logical and of them is textual. As for the logical, the names of Allah are going to be as infinite as the majesty of Allah. There should be no stopping. Like Allah says in the Quran, that if my kalam were to be the ink of the ocean and the trees were to become my pens, the ink would run out, but the kalam of Allah would never run out. So Allah's knowledge, Allah's kalam, Allah's praise, Allah's names do not stop. And there's evidence from the hadith as well that is explicit. Of them is the hadith that is reported in Musnad Imam Ahmad and also in Ibn Hibban, and it is authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ taught a dua. He taught a dua to the Sahaba, and he said to the Sahaba that when one of you is in pain, in anguish, when one of you is suffering, then say this dua and it will remove the suffering. It will remove the suffering. So this is a dua that we should all memorize because all of us go through pain and suffering. It's a long dua, I cannot dictate it to you, but it is found in the books of hadith and the books of dua. And it begins as follows. Allahumma inni as'aluka bikulli ismin huwa lak. Oh Allah, I ask you with every name that belongs to you. How many names? Every name. Sammayta bihi nafsak, that you have called yourself with. أو أنزلته في كتابك, or you have revealed in a book. أو علمته أحدا من خلقك, or you have taught one of your creations. أو استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك, or you have kept this name in the ilm al-ghayb that is with you. Did you guys follow this hadith? Oh Allah, I ask you with every name that belongs to you. The name that you have named yourself, or a name that you have revealed in the books. So there are names of Allah that are revealed in the Torah and not in the Quran. In the Injil and not in the Quran. In the Zabur and not in the Quran. In the Suhbah of Ibrahim and Musa and not in the Quran. In the messengers before and not in the Quran. And there are names in the Quran that are not in those books. Name that you have revealed yourself. Or a name that you have taught to one of your creation. So there are special creations of Allah. Angels, prophets, messengers, perhaps in other dimensions, other creations, whom Allah has taught names to that are not in the books. And then the final category, or you have kept in the ilm al-ghayb that is with you. How many people know that? Nobody. And how much is Allah's ilm al-ghayb? Infinite. So this hadith proves that how many names does Allah have? Infinity. There is no end. Okay, so please now, everybody should be on the same wavelength. This is not something unique. I'm preaching you, this is mainstream theology, but people don't know. And they assume Allah only has 99. That is incorrect. Allah has infinity. From that infinity, there are 99 that are a little bit special, extra special. How are they special? Whoever comprehends them, understands them, memorizes them, shall enter Jannah. Okay, that's the point of the hadith of 99. Nobody should understand from that hadith that Allah only has 99. Now, therefore, we should be very eager to study Allah's names and attributes. It should be a priority for us. Studying Allah's names and attributes is the number one mechanism to increase our iman. The number one mechanism to make our hearts soft, to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing beats this science. It is the most noble science out of all sciences. Why? Because the nobility of a science depends on the nobility of the subject. The more noble the subject, the more noble the science. Correct? And that is why in the sciences of the world, for example, medicine has always been a noble profession because you're studying the human body. How about the knowledge of Allah? What is more noble than that? Nothing. So the knowledge of Allah's names is the most sacred knowledge. Nothing is more sacred than that. It is the knowledge that increases our iman. It is the knowledge that draws us closer to Allah, and because of it, Allah loves us. Hadith in Sahih Bukhari. Hadith in Sahih Bukhari. That there was a person who would lead the salah in his local masjid at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Pause here, footnote. Were there other masajid in Medina at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Yes or no? Yes, there were multiple masajid. There were multiple masajid in Medina because Medina is a large city. So there was a masjid far away where one of the Sahaba would lead salah. And he would recite Surah Al-Fatiha, then Surah Al-Ikhlas, then move on to another surah. And he would do this as a routine or habit. So much so the congregation became irritated. That why do you always squeeze in Ikhlas? We, mashallah, we don't squeeze it in, we end with it. Begin with it and end with it. Khalas, we go home. Okay? Our Sahabi Imam here would squeeze it in between the Fatiha and the longer recitation. So they came to him and they said, why do you always recite Surah Al-Ikhlas? He said, this is my choice, and if you want me as your Imam, I'm going to choose, and this is my choice. If you don't like it, go find another Imam. So he didn't want to tell them. And this hadith is in Bukhari. So the people complained to the Prophet ﷺ. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we have an Imam in our masjid. He's always squeezing in Ikhlas between the two. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go back and say, I am asking his reason. He cannot say no. Go back and say, I want to know what is his reason. So now he's cornered. So he says, listen to this. لأنها تصف الرحمن وأحب أن أقرأ صفته. Because Surah Ikhlas, it describes Ar-Rahman. And I love to read Allah's descriptions. What is Surah Ikhlas? Nothing but description of Allah. Surah Al-Ikhlas describes Ar-Rahman, and I love to read Allah's descriptions. So when they went and they told the Prophet ﷺ, he said, go back and tell him that his love of Surah Ikhlas has caused him to enter Jannah. Allah. Now, we too love Surah Ikhlas, but not for that reason. We need to fine-tune our reason. It's good to love Ikhlas, but we should have Ikhlas as we love Ikhlas. And Surah Al-Ikhlas should demonstrate our Ikhlas. So, the point here, his love for Allah's names and attributes caused what? Caused Allah to love him. You understand? I love to read because it describes Allah, so Allah said, Tafaddal, enter Jannah. So, we study Allah's names and attributes to purify our heart, to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to increase our iman, to know who our Creator is. And the concept of 99 is especially important because these 99, whoever, the hadith says, man ahsaha. It doesn't say man hafidaha. Ahsa is different than hafidha. Hafidha, you all know who hafid is. Hafid is somebody, he's memorized like a parrot, but he doesn't know what it means. This is hafid. Hadith doesn't say hafid. Hadith says man ahsaha. And ahsaha has a deeper meaning than hafidaha. Ahsa means, Ibn al-Qayyim mentions, there's 3 meanings of ahsa, 3 levels of ahsa. Number 1, that you know and understand. That's level 1, and you have to have that. You have to know and understand the 99 names. Ar-Rahman means the one of mercy. Al-Alim means the one who has knowledge. So you know them all, and you have memorized, and you understand. That's the first level. That's not all ahsa. That's the same as hafidah. Number 2 is to make dua using those names. So whenever we raise our hands to Allah, we select the name that is the most appropriate to our dua. And this is one of the most interesting mysteries of Allah's names and attributes. You cannot think of any desire of this world or the next except that you will find a name that is appropriate for that desire. You want forgiveness? SubhanAllah, which name can you not choose? Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Ghafur. You want rizq? Ya Razzaq, Ya Mannan, Ya Kareem. You want a child? Ya Wahhab, Ya Mannan. You want to be cured? Ya Shafi. Whatever your desire is, your brain should go into functionality mode now. What is the name that is munasib with my desire? وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. This is in the Quran explicit. To Allah belongs the perfect names, so make dua using those names. We should memorize the names of Allah to use them in our dua. Ya Shafi, I am sick, cure me. Ishfini shifa'an kamila. Ya Razzaq, I don't have a job. You are the Razzaq. You are the Khairul Raziqeen. You are the Kareem. Ya Kareem. We make dua to Allah. We make dua if we're having any issues at home. Ya Wadud, the one who gives love. We make dua if we want forgiveness. Ya Ghafoor, Ya Rahman. You cannot think of any desire except that you will find the name that is appropriate. And in that searching, your iman will go up. You see, here's the point. You're supposed to know the names, like a Rolodex card. Or Rolodex, you guys don't even know. This is when I was growing up. These guys like a Google file. Okay? Rolodex is gone from the vocabulary of the next generation. It's like a Google database. They'll understand this one. You're supposed to know the names and think about them so you find an appropriate one. And in that thinking, in that research, in that contemplation, your iman is going to go up. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Okay? This is the second level. Make dua. And then what is the third level? The third level is, and by the way, this doesn't mean you only do one, no, it means you do 1, 2, and 3. Check, check, check. You see, that's what, when I say level here, understand? It's a comprehensive thing. Man ahsaha, you need to do 1, 2, and 3. What is the third level? The third level is you absorb the values that the name has and you implement it in your life. So, to understand Al-Alim, As-Sami', Allah is watching me. I had better only do what Allah can see me do and I'm not going to get into trouble. Al-Khabir, As-Sami', whatever I say, Allah is listening. You take the meaning and you absorb the value and your lifestyle changes as a result. This is the third level of ihsan. And whoever does these 3 levels, دخل الجنة. Now the question arises, and here is where I'm really going to lose some of you. I'm going to tell you stuff you've never heard, but again, this is all mainstream, guys. I'm not preaching anything far left field. I'm a very mainstream, see this other guy, don't worry. Most people pay attention to this. This is a very deep point, and it is not typically mentioned, even though it's well-known theology. Most people assume that the 99 names of Allah are agreed upon and well-known, and they have a chart in their houses with those 99 names. I'm about to burst your bubble. Sorry. But this is just me, this is mainstream. Again, that chart that you guys are all aware of, it is an ijtihad of one scholar in the 2nd Hijri century, 180 Hijrah. It's an ijtihad of an alim, great alim. His name is Al-Walid ibn Muslim. His name is Al-Walid ibn Muslim. He's a narrator of hadith, one of the teachers of Bukhari, 2 generations before Bukhari. Great guy, no problem. But it is not Allah. It is not the Nabi, the Rasul, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That chart that has become everywhere in the Ummah, it is not from the speech of our Nabi, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is the first scholar of Islamic history to try to put a list of the 99. Because he was the first, what happened? All the ummah basically got it. That's what happens when you're the first. That's what happens when you're first. Everybody remembers you. Nobody remembers who's the second guy who went to the moon. Nobody cares. It's gone. Number one. So this guy, Al-Walid ibn Muslim, was the first to try to derive the 99 list. And it became so popular and famous that, as you can see, it's printed everywhere. Some masajid have it. I was worried it might be here, or else I'd get you guys into trouble. But I see it's not over here. That's good, alhamdulillah. But it is not sunnah. It is not a hadith. Is that clear? Now, please don't go home and tear it up. No, I'm not telling you that. It's an ijtihad. One alim, good, no problem. But that list is not mukammal. It is not 100% accurate. And this is easily, you can check it yourself. For example, there are names on that list that do not belong to a list of Allah's names. Of them is the name Ad-Dar, the one who harms. And the one who harms should not be a name of Allah, because the name of Allah is beautiful, Al-Husna. Of them is Al-Adl, and Al-Adl is a concept, it is not a name of Allah. And it is on that list. And there are other names that we all know, such as Al-Mannan, and it is not on the list. So that list has some issues. So the point is, we need to understand that that list is not definitive. Okay, then the next question somebody's going to have, okay, give me the authentic list. And what do you think I'm going to say? There is no final, definitive, authentic list. Am I shaking your world yet, or is it okay? Teaching you things that you've never, but see, this is why, what should happen now, this is the point. You should all become curious. And that should lead you to read and listen to lectures and research. That's the goal. Clear? You should all become curious. You should all be like, okay, I want to do it. I want to study. Read the Quran. Start getting the names. In that research, you will get your Jannah. In that research, your iman is going to go up. Simple as that. Don't get your list handed to you on a silver platter. The book of Allah is there. Go open it. But now you will say, shouldn't this be an easy job? Can't somebody have done this for the last 14 centuries? And I don't want to go too into detail because it is a very deep topic, but to again, just, this is all, by the way, surface level, so we can go much deeper than this. But the issue comes here that the concept of Allah's names and how we find them is itself a science. The proper nouns, Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, Al-Samir, Al-Basir, Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum. You understand? The proper nouns in the Quran don't reach 99. Clear? The proper nouns do not reach 99. They're around 80. They're around 80 in the Quran that are proper nouns. You all understand this concept of proper noun. Now, where then do the rest come from? You have to extract them from adjectives and verbs and other forms. And this is where the ikhtilaf comes. Which adjectives should you extract a name from, and which adjective should you not? Which verb should you extract a name from, which verb should you not? Which mudaf ilay, which murakkab, and that's where all of the details come, which we're not going to go into. Okay? So this is why there is no one definitive list of Allah's 99 names. Rather, over the course of the last 14 centuries, around 100 ulama have attempted to have a list, including my teacher Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, Allah yarhamu. He also has a list as well, that is his ijtihad. Around 100 people have attempted to have a version of a list, and one of my own, I have an MA from Medina, my dissertation advisor, Sheikh Tabibi is his name, he has a book in which he has compiled all of these 100 lists and then shown us which one is agreed upon by everyone and which one, who said what about each one. It's a nice thick volume, I have it at home, and it's something that I can reference where we can say, okay, And the good news is, the 80 proper nouns we pretty much agree upon. The good news, don't think that everything is up for debate. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, Al-Salam, Al-Mu'min, Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum, Al-Sami', Al-Basir. These are all agreed upon. Up to around 80, 85, all the ulama agree. It's really in the last 10 or 15 that some say this, some say that. Is that clear? So alhamdulillah, the bulk is the same list. That is just in the finer details that which one do you derive, and that's an advanced topic that we're not going to go into. The point being that our job, at least those unanimously agreed upon, the 80, and the list that all of you are familiar with, it is a starting point. Go ahead and look at that, understand it, and realize that alhamdulillah 85 of those names pretty much agreed upon. It's just a few of them that are subject of dispute. Now, some other points before we conclude. You said 9:15 or 9:20? Okay. Some other points before we conclude. I don't know if we'll have time for Q&A. Let's see. Let's just play it by ear. Of the interesting points of Allah's names is that there is a category of names called the reciprocal names of Allah. The names of Allah that are always opposite and in pairs, reciprocal. And it is, whenever we find such a name, it is adab to Allah that we mention both names together. For example, huwa al-awwalu wal-akhir, al-zahiru wal-batin. These are reciprocal names. The perfection of each is shown through its opposite, along with itself. So those names of Allah that are reciprocal, we should as well mention them together. I'm not saying it's haram to mention only one, I'm saying adab is to mention both. We can say Allah is awwal, but we should say that Allah is awwal and akhir. Allah is zahir and batin. Allah is mubdi and mu'eed. Allah is khafid and rafi'. How do we know that two names are reciprocal? Number one, the meaning is exact opposite. And number two, you will never find them in the Quran or Sunnah except together. You will never find one of these names except it's paired up with the next one. So we as well, then, when we come across these names, we should keep them together in our conversations, in our praise of Allah. I'm not saying it's wajib, I'm saying this is adab to do. Okay? The other interesting point, which is one of the most neglected fields, when it comes to Allah's names and attributes, is the concept of pairing the names. That is the norm in the Quran. Generally speaking, the names of Allah occur in pairs, two. This isn't the reciprocal. Reciprocal is opposite. The combined names, which comes in twos, is the norm. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay? Huwa al-Hayy al-Qayyum. Wa kana Allahu ghafuran rahima. Inna Allaha tawwabun hakim. Typically, in the Quran, the norm is what? Two names. Now, on the rare occasion where a name occurs not in the dual, this gives the name a bit of a blessing. Question: are all the names of Allah equally blessed? Response: all the names of Allah are infinitely more blessed than any other name. But compared to each other, some have more blessings than others. Okay? So as a category, all of Allah's names are infinitely blessed. Within that category, some have more blessings than others. It's like the Quran. All of the Quran is blessed. But within the Quran, some surahs have blessings that others don't have. Similar with Allah's names. So, when Allah's names occur on their own, by themselves, this gives the name a bit of a boost or advantage. And out of all of the names, two have been given the ultimate status, and between the two there is one that is the default name. The default name is, of course, Allah. The name Allah occurs over 3,500 times in the Quran. Literally every second verse, the name of Allah. The other name, and the only other name that has been made equivalent to Allah is the name Ar-Rahman. قُلْ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوْ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيًّا مَا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Say, make dua to Allah or make dua to Ar-Rahman. Whichever of these two that you choose, to him belong all of the other names. So Ar-Rahman and Allah are the two names that Allah has said. All the other names are subservient to these two names. And that is why the name Ar-Rahman is in the Basmala, Bismillah Ar-Rahman, and it's in Surah Al-Fatiha. And it is also a very common name, over 57 times in the Quran. Allah mentions the name Ar-Rahman, and it is also one of the only names that is, we call it a standalone name. Allah mentions it as a proper noun by itself, without a second name, right? In kullu man fi as-samawati wal ardi illa ati ar-Rahmani 'abda. Ar-Rahmanu 'ala al-'arshi istawa. So it occurs on its own as a proper noun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the thing that gives it a boost. So we said the name of Allah, the name of Rahman. Then we said that some names, they occur on their own or in a list of names. And the most common example is Surah Al-Hashr. Wallahu alladhi la ilaha illa hu al-Malik, al-Quddus, al-Salam, al-Mu'min. So that list of Surah Al-Hashr, it is a unique list. No other section of the Quran has more proper nouns than the last page of Surah Al-Hashr. No other section of the Quran has more proper nouns than the last page of Surah Al-Hashr. And therefore these names as well, we can take them and derive from them and memorize them. The other thing, as I said, is the paired names. And that is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, At-Tawwab Ar-Rahim, As-Sami' Al-Alim, Al-Ghafur Ar-Rahim. And these paired names, these combined names, we need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is linking these two names together for a reason. It's not just nothing. It's not just so that the last verse rhymes with the previous verse. Allah doesn't do this. There's a wisdom. In other words, anytime you come across two names of Allah, realize that name one has a meaning, name two has a meaning, then the combination of the two will give you a third meaning that would not have come unless you had this combination. Is that clear? And I'll give you an example. One of the most common combinations, over 70 times in the Quran, is the combination of وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا. This is one of the most common combinations. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. Over 70 times, Aziz and Hakim. Just FYI, when I was in my second year of Medina, so my undergraduate paper was a collection of all of these Aziz and Hakim and a catalog of them, and to see what is the meaning and the wisdom of that. So Aziz and Hakim, the combination of Aziz and Hakim. Al-Aziz means the one full of power and might and majesty. Al-Aziz, the one who has might and power. No one can defeat him, no one can harm him. He has quwwah and izzah. This is Al-Aziz. Al-Hakim means he has wisdom, hikmah. And everything he does it with justice and wisdom. Okay, طيب. What is the wisdom between the combining the two? Listen to this. Generally speaking, when man gets powerful, man acts very unwisely. Generally speaking, the wise, the philosophers, the deep thinkers are not in politics. They're not in power. And that actually gives them the opportunity to be neutral and think and analyze. Correct? Yes. Allah is saying, I have ultimate power, and my power has not caused me to act with injustice. I'm acting with ultimate wisdom despite the fact that I have power, my power has not corrupted my wisdom, and my wisdom does not suffer because I have power. Allah has izzah, Allah has hikmah, and they are perfect to the extreme, both of them. And this is impossible for a human being. Power corrupts man like nothing else. Like nothing else. And that is why, look around you, politicians of all feathers and stripes, this is the reality of the world, from all civilizations. So the point being, this is a combination. Another interesting combination is the combination that is very constant throughout the Quran of the first name being a perfection of Allah to Allah, and the second name being a perfection of Allah with the creation. So the first name deals with Allah and His that, and the second name deals Allah and the relationship with His makhluk. You understand this? This motif is very common in the paired names. And the most famous one is Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum. Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum. Al-Hayy means He Himself is perfect in His life. He doesn't need anybody else to sustain it. He is the ever-living. And His life is so perfect. لَا تَأْخُذُهُ سِنَةٌ وَلَا نَوْمٌ. He doesn't sleep, He doesn't eat, He is Al-Hayy. And His hayat is so perfect, He gives life to others. Their qayyumiyyah, their existence is linked to Him. Not only is He Himself perfect in His life, He gives existence to others who have life. So Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum. Another example, Al-Ghani and Al-Kareem. Al-Ghani, I don't need anything, Al-Ghani. By the way, Al-Ghani should not be translated as the rich. This is a cheap translation, pun intended. It should not be translated as the rich. It's a very cheap translation. Al-Ghani means the one who doesn't need anything from anyone, which translates into the one who is rich, but doesn't mean rich here. Al-Ghani, the one who does not need anything from anyone, he's self-sufficient. And Al-Kareem, and Al-Ghani, Al-Kareem is another combination in the Quran. Al-Kareem, the one who gives everything to others. Allah needs nothing from you, He'll give you everything. Ghani and Kareem. Okay? Another of these combinations is Al-Ahad and Al-Samad. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu Samad. Okay? And the meanings of Ahad and Samad, again, by the way, I'm being very brief. Each of these names, in my class in Memphis, we went like an entire lecture on every name of Allah that we did. So an hour long over the names of Allah. This is the detail. We're just skimming, literally just translation and moving on. Al-Ahad and Al-Samad. Al-Ahad and Al-Samad are also of those beautiful meanings. Al-Ahad means Allah Himself is unique. Allah Himself is one. Allah is nothing like unto Him. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. And As-Samad means every other creation needs the Creator, turns to the Creator. Al-Ahad, He is unique and needs nothing. As-Samad, everything needs Him. So As-Samad means, as Ibn Abbas said, the one whom all the creation turns to for all of their needs. This is As-Samad. And Al-Ahad, I don't need anything, I'm unique, I'm single. I don't need anyone from anything. And As-Samad, all of you need from Him. So the combination here is about Allah's perfection, Himself, and Allah's relationship with the makhluk. And there are many such examples of this. And we find this beauty of Allah's names and attributes throughout the Quran. And again, time is limited, I have to wind up here, so I have 2 more points and we're done, inshallah. Of the ayat of the Quran that demonstrate that the names of Allah, are chosen with wisdom, they're not just random, is the verse that Allah mentions the people of Jannah saying when they enter Jannah. Surah Fatir, beautiful verse. Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahallana dar al-muqamati min fadlih, la yamassuna fiha nasabun, wa la yamassuna fiha lughub, until in the end he says, or the person of Jannah says, Inna rabbana laghafurun shakur. The context is, the people of Jannah are thanking Allah for Jannah. And they're saying, Alhamdulillah, who has caused us to enter Jannah. He has caused us to be in these Jannat al-Na'im without any problems, without any worries. إِنَّ رَبَّنَا لَغَفُورٌ شَكُورٌ. What names did the people of Jannah choose when they're thanking Allah for Jannah? Ghafoor and Shakur. They could not enter Jannah without those two names. We cannot enter Jannah without those two names. Because first, Allah has to forgive my sins, or else I will never enter Jannah. That's Ghafoor. And Ghafoor is the one who forgives big sins. Allah has to forgive my sins. If Allah doesn't forgive sins, no matter how much good I have, my sins will always block my good. So the Ghafoor has to come first. Get rid of the sins. Okay, all the sins gone. I have some measly good deeds for a lifetime Allah has given me. Do you think my good deeds are going to be equal to what Allah gave me? No. So what must Allah do? Take my measly good and shakur. Be extra thankful. Take that small amount and expand it, which is what shakur does. You guys follow me? So the people of Jannah say, Alhamdulillah, oh Allah, you are Ghafoor and you are Shakur. I couldn't be here unless you had forgiven my sins. I couldn't be here unless you took my good deeds and then you stretched it out and you gave me all that I didn't deserve. Inna Rabbana la Ghafoorun Shakur. So you see, my point is, brothers and sisters, the names of Allah, they're not just random. They're not just fillers at the end of ayat. They're names that are chosen for a wisdom and a reason. Time is up. I just mentioned one point. And again, this is a very introductory talk. Much more can be said. But again, just so that you begin your own journey. One final point, inshallah ta'ala. Once our Prophet ﷺ passed by somebody and he was making dua. And it's a long dua. It's mentioned in the books. And of it he said, Allahumma nis'aluka بأني أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت الحي القيوم. I ask you, Allah, because I testify لا إله إلا أنت, and you are the Hayy, you are the Qayyum. And he went on and then he asked his dua, and the Prophet ﷺ said, this man has asked Allah بِاسْمِهِ الْأَعْظَمِ, with his grand name. The name that إِذَا سُئِلَ أَعْطَى وَإِذَا دُعِيَ اسْتَجَابَ. When you mention this name, he will get what he wants. And when you mention this name, his dua is mustajab. So there's something called Ismullahil A'zam. Okay? Now, this term, once again, has generated a lot of mythology in our culture. And people think it is a secret name, that if you utter it, you can fly in the air and you can, convert anything to anything. No, it doesn't work that way. Islam is not mumbo jumbo mystery. Islam is not multiple layers of secret. No. Ismullah al-A'zam. Firstly, we do not know for sure what it is, but the majority say it is Hayy al-Qayyum. This is the majority opinion. Second opinion is that it is actually the name Allah itself. Allah itself is Ismullah al-A'zam. And there are 3, 4, 5 other opinions that we don't have time. But these are some opinions, so it's not one opinion. But here's the point. Our scholars mention it is not a magical name that the hidden few have. It is the name in the 99. And it is a name that is uttered with ikhlas and iman and taqwa. That is the necessary condition for Ismullah to work. Not just you like a parrot say something, then magic will happen. No such thing like this in our religion. You have to be your heart, your body, your mind, your soul, your ikhlas. From the depths of your heart, you raise your hand and you mention the name with the meaning in your heart. Whether it is Hayy al-Qayyum, whether it is Sami' al-Alim, whether it is Ghafoor, whether it is Zaza, you mention from the qalb, believing in al-Hayy, believing in al-Qayyum, having iman in al-Razzaq, and then you make dua to Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Mannan, Ya Sami' al-Dua. No one listens to my dua other than you. Ya Man yujibu al-mutarra idha da'a. No one will respond other than you. The ikhlas that comes, that is what will cause your dua to be answered along with the name. Not just uttering the name with having no meaning, no understanding. So Ismullah al-A'zam is a true concept. It exists. We don't exactly know what it is, but the candidates are Al-Hayy al-Qayyum and the name Allah itself. These are the two main. Some have said Rahman and Rahim as well. Some have said other names as well. It's not really the name that is the important one. The important thing is that it is said with ikhlas and taqwa of your heart. My time has come to an end. To conclude, inshallah ta'ala, the concept of Allah's names, we didn't even talk about attributes in this lecture. The concept of Allah's names is one of the most noble, no, scrap that, it is the most noble science of theology. There is no science that is more noble than the science of Allah's names. And it is therefore something that all of us should be interested in. We should now read the Quran with the intention of looking at those names and attributes. We should read the Quran to extract those names for our own personal life. Then we should read the books about this topic. We should listen to lectures about this topic, and then implement those names in our life, so that inshallah ta'ala we too can get that barakah that our Prophet ﷺ said, that to Allah belong 99 names. Whoever ahsaha, whoever thinks about them, contemplates them, memorizes them, whoever does that shall enter Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause us to be of those who enter Jannah بغير حساب ولا عذاب. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله